Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of English Dave Explains. So the Star Wars Rogue One trailer came out this morning and it was fantastic. But then I had a lot of questions from people asking, is this after episode 7? Where are all those characters that we saw in the last movie? So a lot of people were very confused and I decided, you know what, let me make a show that explains certain things that nerds understand, but the average person wouldn't. And that's how this show came about. So what is Rogue One, a Star Wars story? And why is it called a Star Wars story? Usually it's called Star Wars, then you have the title. But this time it's the title, then a Star Wars story. It can be confusing to many people, but it's actually a lot simpler than you realize. So typically up until now, we've had Star Wars movies with numerical titles. So you had episode 1 through 7. Obviously, to add more confusion, they weren't released in that order. We actually got episode 4, 5, and 6 first, and then we went back to 1, 2, and 3. And you could argue all day which is the best way to watch them, but that's a whole podcast in of itself. Right now I'm here to explain where Rogue One fits into all of that. First up, what does a Star Wars story actually mean? And how is that different from the episodic titles? Well, if you look at the original movies, the ones that have the numerical titles, there's a through line. They usually focus on the Skywalker lineage, which is why a lot of people think Rey could be a Skywalker, but maybe she isn't. Well, Lucasfilm decided that they wanted to do other stories set in the past that kind of expanded on the universe. So instead of going forwards or backwards, it's almost like going sideways. So far, the only movies listed will be the upcoming Rogue One that we've seen a trailer for, a young Han Solo movie which is currently casting, and an untitled Boba Fett origin movie. And even though these are part of the greater Star Wars universe, these movies are being approached as standalone films. That being said, we've heard a few rumors stating that though he won't be a major character in Rogue One, Darth Vader's presence will be felt in the movie. So when is Rogue One set and why is it so important? Well, the official synopsis is as follows. The film takes place before the events of Star Wars: A New Hope, and it tells a story of unlikely heroes who have united to steal plans to the dreaded Death Star. So it's a simple, well, not so simple, heist flick. And if you remember very carefully, if you've watched all the Star Wars movies, in episode 4, A New Hope, we see that Luke Skywalker discovers a message from Princess Leia meant for Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was supposed to take it to the rebels, who would use it to find the weak spot on the Death Star and destroy it.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Well, Rogue One is a story of how those plans were stolen in the first place in order to get in the hands of Princess Leia. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. We will be getting a Star Wars movie every year for the foreseeable future, which is fantastic for nerds like me. However, we're going to get the numerical movies every other year with the Star Wars story movies set in between. So next year we get episode 8 after this year's Rogue One. And that's it for this first episode of English Dave Explains. If you enjoyed this video or found it very informative, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. If you'd like any more questions answered, I know there's so many nerd things that people don't understand. I take it for granted because I'm a huge nerd, but that's why the show exists. Send us an email, entertainlinks@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter @entertainlinks. Keep an eye out. Over the next few days, we are going to do an in-depth analysis of the Rogue One trailer, breaking down the characters, what we think they represent in the greater Star Wars story, what their roles are going to be in the specific movies, and all the general speculation that comes every time a Star Wars movie comes out. Thanks guys for listening, and I'll see you next time.